My experience with running during pregnancy has turned out to be nothing like I expected, and I wanted to create this video for anyone who is just finding out they're pregnant or is planning to run during pregnancy. I hope this gives you another perspective, something that I don't think is really talked about enough, but is the reality for a lot of people. So I hope you enjoy this video. So to give you a bit of a background, I am currently 17 weeks pregnant with my first pregnancy, so my first baby. And before I found out I was pregnant, I was running and weight training quite often. So I was probably running 3 to 4 times a week, and I was weight training about the same amount. So some days I was even weight training in the mornings and then running in the evenings, and that was a pretty normal routine for me. For the last sort of 12 months, I haven't really been training for any events, so I haven't done any, half marathons or 10Ks or anything like that, partly because of COVID and everything being shut, but I was still running quite a bit. And I'm also a physiotherapist, so I work with a lot of runners, and I also work with a lot of pregnant women and postpartum women. So I think I've been exposed to really both sides of this journey. So working with a lot of runners and seeing, the different range of runners, and also working with a lot of quite active pregnant and postpartum women. And then of course with Instagram and media, you see this image of, pregnant women doing quite a lot and staying quite active. And I think because I was somebody that, was quite active and quite fit, in my head, I was planning to just keep running through my pregnancy. I even had plans to run a half marathon or at least a 10K. I actually had one in mind in July, so I would have been about 27, 28 weeks. And I thought, sweet, that'll be so good. I'll run this 10K, I'll smash it out. And then I actually got pregnant. So I found out I was pregnant at the start of March, and I found out at about 4 weeks. And it was so funny, I was actually at the gym training, and I remember this particular day where everything just felt so much heavier for me. I felt so much more fatigued. It was just a really hard workout. And then a couple of days later, I took a pregnancy test. Turns out I was pregnant, which was super exciting, of course. But pretty immediately after that, I was just exhausted. Like, the pregnancy fatigue I felt in the first trimester is really hard to describe, because you hear about people, saying, oh, you get really pregnant, or you get really tired when you're pregnant. But experiencing it as somebody who is used to always being on the go, working a lot, exercising a lot, I really was not prepared for that level of fatigue. Like I said, I went from exercising sometimes twice a day plus working to sleeping in, going to bed super early, getting to and from work, but that's really all I had the energy for. The idea of going to the gym or going for a run was just so beyond what I could handle in that first trimester. And I think my first trimester was actually relatively good compared to a lot of women's. I was nauseous, but I didn't have really like morning sickness, in the sense that I wasn't throwing up. I was still able to stomach food quite well. It was that fatigue that completely floored me. And so no matter how much I wanted to run, I really just had no energy to run. And I remember each week I would say to my husband, next week, next Monday, I'm going to go back to the gym, I'm going to get back into it. And he would just be like, all right, I'll see how you go. And it was just not happening. I was just so tired. The only way to describe it was I was just exhausted all the time. And in that first trimester, so from finding out at about 4 weeks till I was about 11, 12 weeks, it was like that. So I was essentially just working and getting through work, getting through what I needed to get done that day. nothing extra was happening. I went for a few walks, took the dogs for a walk, but that was all I had the energy for. I don't think I ran at all in that first trimester. I might have done like a very short run when I went for a walk with my husband and just wanted to see if I could go for a run, but even then it would have been like 2 kilometers, and it was slow. Like, it was so much slower than what I was used to. And so that was my first trimester experience, and it was definitely a bit of a shock to me, being somebody who is active and thought that I would fly through that first trimester. Like, yes, I was expecting a bit of fatigue, I was expecting a bit of nausea, but not to the level that I had it. And it definitely took a lot of mental processing of, this is okay. It was a shock to the body, but it was also a mental shock of, I physically can't do this. And I think it's really hard to not beat yourself up. At least for me, it was to not beat myself up on the fact that I feel like I should be doing more. I feel like I should be more active. You see other women, you know, still running through their first trimester and exercising through their first trimester. And I just didn't. I really couldn't. And so it is totally okay if you can't. What I had to realize was, my body's going through a massive change, and I really just have to trust my body that I don't have the energy to exercise right now, and the best thing for me to do is not push my body and exercise. Having said that, I did talk to my obstetrician, and I know the research, the evidence is totally safe to exercise when you're pregnant. So if you are somebody that does want to exercise and has the energy and feels okay to exercise, it is okay to still run and exercise in that first trimester. But if you are like me and you physically can't, no matter how much you want to, it is also totally okay. So that was my experience in that first trimester. It was a lot of fatigue and not much exercise at all. It was a lot of sleeping in and a lot of laying on the couch and fitting in a bit of work in between all of that. So then from about 11 and a half, 12 weeks or so, I did start to feel a little bit better. And I remember just those days where I was, you know, going to work, and then I still had a bit of energy after work, and it felt so great to have that little bit of energy back. And since then, I've started just incorporating a bit of running and a bit of weight training back into my routine, which has been so nice. However, it is nowhere near to the level that I was exercising before being pregnant. So at the moment, I don't really have an exercise routine. I'm not strict by any means on how much I'm exercising, how much I'm running, how much I'm weight training. It's all really dependent on how I'm feeling on the day, what else I've got on, what my energy levels are like. So I have been going for a few runs, probably like 2 a week. And honestly, they're like 2 or 3 kilometers. It is nothing, and they're super slow, and I cannot run up hills at the moment. I'm walking up my hills. I'm running or jogging really, those like flat areas, the downhill areas, and they feel pretty good. But definitely mixing in a lot of walking in with my runs as well. And my body feels great for it. I actually feel really good running, but it's not at the level that it was, and that's okay. I'm doing a bit of weight training, and I'm doing a bit of strengthening, like core strengthening, glute strengthening stuff as well. In another video, I'll talk about like pelvic pain and lower back pain, because I have started noticing some of that as well, and I'll show you some of the exercises that I'm doing and the exercises that I give my patients when they come in with this stuff. But in terms of running and exercise, it has definitely changed, and it is completely different to what I expected. So even if you are coming into pregnancy really fit and running a lot, please don't beat yourself up if you can't run to the level that you were running before you got pregnant. It is totally okay. And in my head, I am far more comfortable with not pushing myself, not exercising to the levels that I was exercising before. exercise for me is also a real sort of mental health help. I feel better about myself. I feel better just generally when I am exercising. So that's my motivation for getting out and doing some stuff now. But you know, a little bit is enough for me at the moment. I definitely don't need to be running 5-10K runs a few times a week. So a couple of Ks with some walking is doing my body wonders and doing my mental health wonders. And then, yeah, fitting in a bit of strengthening in between all of that as well, which has been super helpful and really good for any pains and aches that I'm getting. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's given you that other insight of running during pregnancy, and although it is totally safe, it is not something that you should feel like you have to keep up with during pregnancy if you can't. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.